Good afternoon and welcome to our last instalment from the men's shows and from Paris. Today we will be talking about Dior Homme. And if the panel, who are super excellent, I'm very excited about Miss Hilary Alexander, would like to introduce themselves, that would be fantastic.
Hello, I'm Chodha and I'm a fashion writer.
Hello, I'm Hilary Alexander and I'm a freelance fashion writer.
Hello, my name's Norris. I'm a trend forecaster and fashion historian.
Hello, I'm Mimma Viglezio and I'm a management and creative consultant.
So guys, what are we expecting today? Wow.
It's a big question.
I don't know what to expect, but I'm a bit of a menswear virgin because I've been on holiday until Wednesday evening. So I've actually seen nothing except a few glimpses.
What are your favourites normally?
Normally, I always love Yoji and Dries and Junya. I tend to like sort of the more extravagant menswear designers, I think.
Oh. We did Junya yesterday. We did Junya yesterday.
And?
We loved it. Yeah. We all sort of gave it a big thumbs up. It was a bit of a step up, it was more extravagant than he has been for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
But I think also, just to pick up on what Hilary was saying about extravagance in menswear, I think that's somewhat lacking at the moment. There isn't a real energy to a lot of the things that I've seen. It's all sort of we're all being really safe, and there's all kind of, no one's really, I think it's kind of really expected, and I think it's very rare that you get a real surprise, not only in women's wear, but even in menswear. It all feels a little bit safe and a bit staid. So that's why I think for Dior Homme, I'm particularly interested to see how Chris Van Ash is going to, I guess, freshen up what he does all the time. I think he's also kind of admitted before that he likes almost quite repeating himself and what he's doing. So sometimes you can watch his shows and just think, hang on a minute, I've seen this. That's 50 times the same thing, but they're very, very slight changes. So I think we're going to see something that's quite consistent, but I don't know how extravagant or
Well, I think there is a difference between repeating or being consistent. I think consistency is good when you try to build a brand.
Yeah.
The problem, I think, with this season, to take back what you were saying, is that it's very safe and it's not only consistent. And the other day someone was saying it's because of the economy, which could be true, but on the other hand, if you don't propose anything new or exciting, then I wonder if it sells more than, I don't know, do you see what I'm trying to say?
Definitely was.
It's safe, good for the economy?
Yeah, definitely was, sorry.
No, but I mean, if it is to do with the economy, it's certainly not being reflected in women's wear. I mean, when you think, spring, summer women's wear, it is so kind of OTT and lavish.
Well, it's more bang for your buck. It's like you either go one way or the other, and I think that's the strategy you choose. Classicism or maximalism. Like, we've got to make these clothes so deliciously extravagant that you're not going to be able to resist them.
Well, that's a good point.
But there also is no recession in fashion, and there hasn't been.
There is no recession in fashion?
Well,
you wish.
No, but...
Did you see the results of the big groups? I mean...
Yeah, but they're complaining that their growth has gone down, not that they're...
Well, but that's what recession is. I mean, if I may say, it doesn't mean big crisis, I'm going bankrupt. It means I have a negative growth. And that's, even the Latin term, that's recession, when it contracts. And I mean, I don't think it's as bad.
Are they actually contracting as opposed to just the actual growth going down?
They're flat, but when
that's not anybody else's idea of. That's a very luxury recession, though, isn't it? I'm not getting richer as quickly as I was last week.
I'm not going into
I can't afford the third yacht. Oh shucks.
No, because I mean, in England, recession has meant, like we've got poorer.
Negative growth of the economy.
Yeah, but China's kept the luxury goods growing and growing and growing and growing.
Oh, totally.
And China is slowing.
China's slowing.
China is slowing, and they had bet too much. Not only on that, but China is slowing, and I mean, there's no real recession, and as we know, the rich are richer and the poor are poor. Whatever. We don't want to have a financial lesson. However, it is slowing, and they're all trying to understand what's going on. Look at the fact that designers been fired, young people are being now bought. And when I was still in Gucci Group, we were like, oh, what about those young kids that do things that nobody wear? Now they're racing each other to buy, you know, the new kid in town. Why? Because they finally understood that they need fresh blood and they need fresh ideas and they need fresh everything. But then the problem is the older generation that they don't know what to do anymore. Do we have to be fresh and adventurous? Do we have to be safe?
Can I direct this a little bit back to Dior? Because I think it is relevant. No, it's relevant. But I just, especially Hilary, because you've been going to all the shows so much, like for the years. You know, so Chris was a safe choice. He has done the same thing. He's kept it very quiet. You know, he's not reinventing the wheel. So how, you know, but he has been building a brand. So how is this, you know, what you guys have just been speaking about, what do we think of that as a strategy for Dior?
Well, I think, you know, if you're building a brand and you want growth, you've got to produce something that people haven't already got. Because otherwise, where is the incentive to buy if what you see on the catwalk or in the store windows looks exactly or pretty much the same as to what you've already got hanging in your wardrobe? I mean, I have to admit to a certain bias, because I used to think that what John Galliano did for Dior Men was sensational. You know, it was exciting and it was always something different and something unexpected. And I think that's the clue. You've got to surprise your customer and delight them with the fact that here's something you haven't actually thought of.
For me, I think there's a real crisis of taste going on. I think too many people have what they think is good taste, making a lot of us, I'm putting myself in that, we all have a similar taste level now, more so than, so if you look at an old Galliano show, men's or women's, you know, that's sort of it's quite shockingly sort of theatrical and all those beautiful things that we love John's work for. But now more than ever, everyone else has kind of leaned towards this very sort of, let's do really beautiful wearable clothes. And actually the extravagance, I think, has clearly been depicted in the shows of those stupid blankets that everyone's wearing on their one shoulder in Burberry, in Breton, you know, and how ridiculous is it? Because I think it's ridiculous.
But
that's
it's like
where
J.
the extravagance.
Anderson style sort of styling now going into Burberry.
But it's kind of
trying to be.
When trying to be all JW.
Well, you pull that blanket off, and you've got a really great suit.
Well, absolutely.
But actually,
Underneath
so
it
in
all.
terms of wearability, the way the brands are,
But it's all varnish.
dressing
it's
it
all-
up.
But darling, you teach me. You are the fashion writers. I mean, that's styling. Because if you only put suits, you know, on a catwalk, just go to the show.
But I think the styling now gets a lot more focused.
Oh, absolutely.
Than
But that's the
the
thing,
design.
the best of both worlds, isn't it? It's all the fairy dust that makes it feel like it's new, when actually it's just the same classic stuff.
You know what I think? You know what I think the problem is? I have to say this: that everybody copies someone in advertising. Look at the wing bag that Phoebe Philo. I mean, Prada has done it. I'm like, how can you accept that? Identical, you know?
Yeah.
And in advertising, in styling, there's always someone who's the best or the trendiest or whatever there are, and everybody copies them.
But we
That's
know-
when you say
we-
the taste.
we noticed
People
this-
have no taste. They don't know what's good or not.
But we noticed this the other day when we were looking at Menswear Prada, that the really funny thing is that J.W. Anderson is taking off Miuccia, Prada, and now Prada seems to be doing it back. It's kind of like all the
I haven't
neckties
thought
to the
about that,
side.
but it's funny,
But
yeah.
are you looking at it, I'm like, this feels like her take on JW doing her, and it's kind of really disheartening when you see somebody as wonderful as her.
Yeah.
Like you said, copying Phoebe Philo.
the master to me.
Yeah, absolutely, she is to me
How
too.
can she possibly do the wing bag? Or someone did it in her team, but someone decided we're putting it out
It's
and
gonna
we
sell.
sell it. I mean, Vuitton did it, everybody did it, but Miuccia?
I think
That's
everyone's
like-
getting really in terms of the references as well. The references are so available immediately now that, you know, I was hanging out in St Martin's Library yesterday doing some research of my own, and you know, it's tiring going through all of these old books, these magazines, and really engaging with history and fashion history and cultural history. And actually, a lot of what I found, you wouldn't find exactly the same thing after a quick search on the internet, but you'd get near enough. And I think that's the problem that lots of design studios, I know lots of design studios I've gone into, have shockingly recent images from recent other
Yes,
brands on their walls, and that's the thing
What
that's kind
sells?
of
They wanted.
yeah.
They
But that's
want
why
it because
we're all
that
sort of
sells.
Well,
looking
it
at the
make
same
them
they've got
things.
confirmation already that it's selling. It's like when I work in America as a trend forecaster, and they'll say to me, "Well, is it already? Is somebody else already doing it?" Even at high street level, I'm like, "Well, that's not forecasting." And they're like, "For them, they know it's selling, so they don't, you know." And I'm like, "Wow, that's."
I think this
that's
is
when
the
you see
heart
the
of the
European
matter.
American thing and the buyers versus the what the editors want, and it's a bias.
That's interesting to hear.
But do you think it's because there's
Very
a tendency to rely on sort of short-term memory because it's easier than going through, as you say, the time and the effort and the discipline and the patience and perseverance to actually go back and reference things and actually source something, I don't know, that's maybe 50 years
Yeah.
But it
old
might
or
also-
60.
It might also be that you've got thousands. Well, I mean, how big are how many people are employed at marketing at LVMH? And you know, and they've all got a say and a stake. You know, their mortgages are
30,000 probably.
dependent on a collection selling, and that would explain, you know, because you know, really, fashion designers are. Like the word genius is overused, but like they don't need a marketing department. They know what the future of fashion is. But actually, you have all these people going, no, help, like you
Decision by
can't go off.
committees. Yeah.
I mean, with Dior, you know, I think
Yeah.
we all kind of sort of
on.
accept the fact that it is going to be consistent and perhaps a little bit repetitive. But even if he just sent all the models out with wonderful flower buttonholes, I mean, for me, that would be enough hint of extravagance to make me think, fresh.
Yeah, I think unfortunately though we're not in these kind of the same times that when Galliano and McQueen were here. It's like the age of Raf Simons and Phoebe Philo, and everything is minimalist, and that's obviously seems to be what's kind of selling. And I don't know whether that's obviously working, and you know them taking. Chris Van Ash at Dior, he trained with Eddie Slimane at Yves Saint Laurent, so they already knew that they were going to almost getting a mini Eddie Slimane, and you know, so it's don't know, maybe like you said, it wasn't time anymore to have sort of a Galliano. The extravagance didn't suit the time, and they thought they knew what they were getting.
You know why I think that someone like Phoebe sells so well and it's so loved in her minimalism, and probably Chris Van Ash as well, but I know it less so. It's because, and probably you're going to hate me for this, I think the street styling is becoming so important. So the more minimal and the more simple people can put it the way they want. And it sounds very banal, but at the end of the day, when people have more attraction to fashion and less money because they're younger or whatever, then they can buy a white shirt and make it into their own style, you know, with a flower or not, with, and Phoebe has a very defined style, which is really minimal, but then all her pieces separately, you can bring them and make them into your own, much easier than what John was doing at Dior at the time, because you see what I mean?
Well, it's also nice to have some clothes to wear to the office. I mean, I'm lucky that every job I've ever had, I can wear whatever the hell I like, but that 99.9% of people have to wear a very restricted palette, a very, you know, and most people with money work by definition, you know, like.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
But I think the really sad thing as well is that there's less eccentrics in the world, and there's less true characters and individuals, and everybody parades around, you know, pretending that they're an individual. And I talk about this a lot at various places, that it's this kind of overexposed sort of individualism. You know, the age of we're overexposing individualism, and actually not very many people could get away with a Galliano piece now.
That happens in England, in the UK only, because you go to New York and all the you can see if someone is from Upper Park Avenue or Chelsea. You go to
I
in
understand, but
Italy,
it's
you
a
know
very-
if someone is Roman or Milanese by the shoes they
Absolutely,
wear.
but it's a very homogenised vision of style at the moment. I think everybody.
Even here, you think?
Well, the ones that are here are trying. Some of them trying too hard.
Yeah.
But
If you
To be photographed.
Yeah.
type sort of fashionable or chic into Google Images, you get images of girls all looking the same, and they all have the same hair.
Yeah.
They're all in sort of a good jean and a white shirt, or they've all got the version of the Celine Cabas tote, but most of it's from Zara. That's a lot of what that's what I see. That's what
I can't ever
find.
remember a time when I haven't read that aesthetically everything looks the same.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah,
I can't remember a time since I started reading about brands, aesthetics, shopping, that somebody hasn't said that everybody looks the same. People always say that everything looks the same.
Well,
Oh, but it doesn't. I mean, just
Yeah.
hang around outside London Fashion Week.
Yeah, but people
I-
dress
Very
have to be
extreme.
photographed now. It has become, and Susie was so right with that article that made everybody upset. People go there to be photographed, so
Yeah.
it's not even spontaneous, you know, it's like theatre.
let me take
So
a
does
photograph
that
of
count?
you.
Does that matter for a trend forecaster? When people are, don't you think they're forcing it?
No, I mean that's not genuine street style. People are dressing up that are kind of in the industry to get photographed. When I've seen people say, "I'll take your photograph, you take mine," it's like swapsies. It's like that's not street style.
But then they put it on Instagram or Facebook or Tumblr or something. So isn't it in some way generating an idea of fashion individualism? Because other people who see it might think, well, that's
But
actually,
it's
I like the way she's
self-generated
done
though,
that.
isn't it? That's the difference.
They do,
Self-generated.
Does it matter,
it's
though?
Not. Well, it does if we all want to keep our jobs.
But why?
I think.
I'm
I
still.
don't get it, I don't understand.
As in, if everyone is putting out, for example, if you look at people's personal Instagram feeds and Twitters
Yeah.
and blogs as their own magazines, as their own campaigns, as their own editorials, then actually what does that mean for magazines, for stylists, for consultants, for anyone that is a working professional in this industry? People are kind of coming up with maybe similar results. I'm not necessarily saying that it's a bad thing, but I think it is a real... You know, if you look at, for me as a journalist, for example, there's so, you know, on my way to interview a designer, they've already, you know, the PR's already sent me the bio, so I know where they graduated from, all that boring information. And potentially they've already told me through Instagram or whatever social media they're using what they did last night. So it's now become a real challenge when I interview someone to find out something that they've never told anyone else. They haven't told their millions of followers on Instagram or Twitter. And that's kind of, because if we're all telling each other, if designers and people that used to be, you know, put in that position where they are interviewed by someone, telling their followers or their fans everything anyway, then where do I fit in? A writer doesn't really actually need to be involved in that conversation because they're telling everyone everything anyway. Or a photographer or a stylist, you know, and there's all of... I think, you know, we all know that a lot of those street style images from Fashion Week and things like that are not, you know, they are 9 times out of 10 the people photographed wearing particular brands that we might not have heard of are friends of that particular person or are PRs.
That's why I still love Bill Cunningham so much.
Exactly.
Like what?
I still love Bill Cunningham so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me too.
because
Oh,
he's not,
fabulous.
he's just sort of somewhere else
The
taking
photographs,
pictures
what
of...
he thinks is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But you're the other more sort of the more famous street style photographers and websites, for me, actually give me no information whatsoever.
So why is Mr. I must remember to call him by his proper name and not by the much ruder fashion version. Why is Mr. Van Ash able to peddle the absolute opposite of these kind of street style clothes? Why is he able to do this minimalism season after season after season with its glacial changes? And how did they go from a guy that took the zeitgeist by the scruff of its neck, shook it up and down, helped to make a sort of junkie poet an international superstar, this guy that made menswear into the most exciting thing that had legions of teenage fans, and then they went to Mr. Van Ash, who has no profile. And you know, they are still opening stores, and they go to the trouble of having a sub-brand. Most people don't have a Homme sub-brand.
I like Homme with an
how-
H.
how-
It's Homme in French, no
Homme,
H.
sorry. Homme.
What would ever happen with Raf? Because obviously now Raf's at Dior Women's Wear and he has his own line. If I was Raf, would I want to get my hands as well on Dior Men's? I mean, I guess he maybe wouldn't have time to do it, but...
The comparisons, I think, would be quite painful, wouldn't they?
Between the women and the men, you mean, or
No,
between Chris and...
I think between Hedy and Raf, I don't think it would be very
But,
comfortable.
so you answered. The only thing I feel like saying after what you just said is that who do you hire after Hedy Slimane? I mean, I know you can say who do you hire after John Galliano, but Hedi really made menswear relevant.
Oh, and
to
also
fashion, right?
don't forget, he
Before
transformed
menswear
Karl
was a
Lagerfeld.
Yes.
Because if it hadn't been for Hedi, Karl would
Karl
never
would
have lost
still be-
weight.
Exactly. But you know, before
And
men's
Lauderie
fashion,
wouldn't have need to find new customers.
men's fashion was a
Karl went on a
product, not a
diet
brand.
simply to
And
be able
with
to
Dior
fit
Homme, it became
into
a
the
brand.
skinny suits.
Yes.
Wow.
Primarily
Yes,
why
said
he
it,
went on the
announced
diet.
it.
You're right.
Nick was saying earlier actually that Karl Lagerfeld goes to every single Chris Van Ash show.
Yeah, but he's forced to, isn't he?
Why? Why would it be?
Well, because he also went to all the Dior Homme shows.
But
Oh,
he
No,
was
no, it's
very
for
good
Dior.
friends.
That's what I meant to
Was
say.
very
Dior,
good
Dior
friend.
Homme, Dior Homme shows.
But
yeah.
isn't it something to do with
No, it was genuinely friends. He's
Friends, maybe through,
yeah.
through Eddie Sullivan, maybe there's a link up there, you know, because he trained with Eddie, and I don't know, there must be some sort of.
But I just thought it was
Maybe it's friends with Chris. I mean, I don't think
But it's
Mr.
Chanel,
Lagerfeld
it's not
does
a
anything
luxury
because
group
they
thing,
want
it's not
him
an
to.
obligation, I don't think.
No, because I always thought it was friendship with Hedi, but then
Yeah.
since he's carried on doing it, I mean, why would it be the one show?
So he slimmed down to get into the suit.
Yes.
He said it. I remember
Yeah.
reading
Yeah.
it.
That's
Like I
brilliant.
lost
That's
10
why.
kilos because I wanted to wear.
He used to be, you know,
It was
Yeah.
big.
A
yeah.
big
a
man.
really big
He was a
man.
big man.
Yoji-clad big man, right?
Huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gigantic.
And that's
Because he
why
was
it makes me.
muscly before that, wasn't he? He was a
Oh.
bodybuilder in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't-
Bodybuilder type.
It makes me laugh.
One's
I'm like,
tempted to say a muscle Mary, but you know, maybe not. But I think, you know, when that first Hedi Slimane Dior collection came out, and all those sort of skinny, snake-hipped male models, I think Karl just became fixated. And apparently it was a cabbage soup diet, wasn't it? That this
Gross.
That I
French
wouldn't
guy-
know that much, but I remember reading he slimmed
Yeah.
down. And
How
all.
does one in fashion deal with the waste products from cabbage? I mean, I can't imagine your
Same way as most people.
Well, no, but I imagine but you know, it's
Is that a
fragrant.
biological
It's
question?
fragrant,
Oh,
isn't
because
it?
of the smell.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
You
great.
must need a lot of candles.
That's why he had the
Yes.
fan, but you got rid of that, yeah.
Fan.
No, the fans for the.
Daryoush, is that why we have this
sweating.
here? You wanted to tell us you're on a cabbage soup diet, is that
Yes.
Yeah, I wish I was on a cabbage soup diet. I'm on the everything other than cabbage.
That's
soup.
why, you know, Karl talks a lot about size, and he's put out some big statements even this year, you know, like big women don't belong on the runway, and I'm like, well, what were they thinking about banning you off the runway when you used to do your exit? You know, it's not a very kind thing
Yeah.
to say. You know, we have all
No, you
got
just don't
memories.
say
No.
whatever.
But I think
Yeah.
Dior having or employing Chris Van Ash, it's because he was almost, and still kind of is, relatively anonymous. So he's not bigger than the name Dior, which I think is quite is great
Good
for
point.
them. That's why it works.
Oh, he sits under the
weirdly,
radar,
they've
doesn't
kind of
he?
kept
Yeah.
him on simmer. But in some weird way, yes, because it's been 2007, I think he
Eight.
started, 2008. It's kind of, yeah, they've kind of kept him on because they could have also.
Good
They've
point,
only
because
just
Hedi
opened
was
his own
becoming
store.
bigger than the
Yes.
brand.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's only
right.
just opened his own Chris Van Ash store in Paris, you know, in June or July, I think it was. So
They maybe felt
What
they
was he
had to
doing
long
before?
time.
It was Chris Van Ash doing Chris Van Ash
Yeah.
before, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
working with another brand. I don't remember. Before
No,
Dior,
no,
it was
no.
just.
So you're right. It was 8. It was collection for 8, but it probably was actually date 7. So I just hate.
That's right.
I just want you to get your due credit.
But I
so
think
that's
he's
the-
almost,
no
he feels
risk
like
there.
a palette cleanser almost. He makes very Rick Owens-esque clothes, and we know what Rick Owens is a genius at, layering concept on top and then just heaps of loads of wearable clothes, coats and jersey and stuff. And it feels to me that Chris maybe is just great at selling lots of black, kind of, you know, just all those great pieces that he makes. And like you said, he has some great ideas. I'm not discrediting his concepts at all, because he has some great concepts. But like you said, he just is, I don't know, like you said, it maybe I don't know. It's a,
Well, he can't be transitional because it's been so long.
no, but he's definitely, like you said, he's sitting there perfectly. Maybe they got their fingers burnt a bit by working with Eddie and thought, this time.
I mean, it's very, you know, there's sort of always a sort of sportswear tailoring thing going on. It's always very, very precise. It's always very high quality materials.
Don't you think there's a market for that? Out there, there's that huge swathe of men who actually don't want clothes that challenge them,
Yeah.
or clothes that are too intellectual. They want clothes that they can recognise for a start.
But there's the Italian for that.
No, but perhaps they want a French brand.
Okay.
And they're well
But you see what I
made,
mean?
beautiful fabric,
Absolutely.
and simple. And they can rely on them.
Yet fashionable because it's Dior.
Because exactly.
That's enough for most men, you know.
Maybe that's the.
I don't know. I don't know what to expect from the show. Maybe.
But like you
I would
said,
have
it's
something
got
clever to say when I
it's
see the
got
show.
that formal sportswear military vibe. It's just very all those intersections that he kind of
Well, it's generally
explores.
tailoring, isn't it? But it touches on, you know, like what was it? Last autumn, winter, there was a zip suit. You know, it's kind of odd, though. It's odd in its mainstreamness, and it's that minimalism and precision is. There's a fetishism, not a fetishism, sexual fetishism, but there's a fashion-y fetishism. It's not just classic. But yeah, I'm struggling to. Shall we look at the show? Would be wonderbar. Thank you.
Oh dear.
There's your flower.
Oh look,
There's
they
the
are wearing
extravagance.
flowers.
Would you bring it right
Xenia.
as forward as possible?
Yeah,
Thank
that would
you.
be great because it's on the screen.
It's very much sort of the accountant, isn't it?
Can we count
The
this?
anorexic accountant.
I've come to check your bank balance.
But it's funny. I mean, it could be Xenia, or
Thank you.
you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite blocky, isn't it? The jacket.
It's a suit.
See, look at those three together.
Yes.
What different information are we? See, it's very subtle differences, but I think again that's one of the benefits of actually doing. That's why I like doing these panels, is because you can linger on these looks. Whereas if you watch that and it zipped past you in
Yeah.
10 minutes,
You
8
just
minutes,
write down
you'd just
SB
be-
suit.
Yeah, exactly. Pinstripe grey.
Yeah.
You know, and there
Long
are
or short jacket. Yeah.
subtle differences here. You know.
The ties look slightly different.
Yeah.
And is that like a tie ring around it, or is it just knotted with something?
I think they're wearing
hard to
waistcoats
see.
as well.
It
my
does.
God.
It does often feel like a sort of. I think you guys sort of touched it. Hilary, you sort of touched on it a little bit. You know, like it is. It's almost like a version of fashion. You know, so there'll be the fashion parka that's been going around sort of since Christopher Bailey did those amazing raincoats all those years ago, and there'll be like a bomb. You know, it's almost like this. Here you are. This is all men's fashion in one place. But
Like the go-to to feel fashionable, but
with nothing challenging except for the.
Is that a polka dot?
yeah. Like a point de spree, I don't know, it's embroidered or...
With matching shoes?
It looks embroidered, doesn't it?
Look,
Yes.
the shoes are polka dot, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the bag.
Metal.
God.
Fur.
I love
Men
that
start
sheepskin.
saving.
Though. I
There's
know,
so much
I mean, a
fur
sheepskin
going on.
coat's
The
a
next
sheepskin
season we
coat,
have
but
to
that
have
is
fur.
actually a gorgeous one.
It's quite a Japanese thing to do, isn't it? All over polka dots, shoes, accessories, everything.
Yeah. The matchy you mean?
Matchy.
See, those little sort of neat laptop cases are a kind of giveaway, aren't they? It's the kind of expensive geek, isn't it?
Right.
They look cute, all of them though. But nothing new. Let me see.
Yeah, the coats
I
are
do
big,
always
aren't they?
prefer Chris Van Ash's summer collections though, because I think he has a real. It all goes a bit sort of. The silhouette's slightly baggier and floatier and a bit more fun
Yeah,
in
'cause
summer.
you
I
open
don't.
up,
I
yeah.
never really. His winter collections are always kind of.
What the show
Serious.
studio generally, the reviews that I've read over the years, have been, you know, it's a Howell and Lou are way more pro Chris than Tim. You know, style.com are not particularly pro Chris. Dal, what do you like about Chris or Dior Homme?
Well, I don't. Yeah, his own work for his own label, I'm not massively a fan of. But his work here, it's almost like a reined. All of his sort of ideas that he pulls into his own collection are sort of reined in here, and that's what I kind of like. That sort of strictness, that seriousness, like this. You know, using the denim. The denim is, you know, it's been used in a nice way. I will say this collection so far isn't blowing me away, but you know, but at the same time, I'm not surprised by any of it.
But I think that denim, sort of slightly long jacket or parka, I think, you know, you could find a man, you know, in his 40s, 50s, 60s who would wear that and not feel frightened or feel, oh God, people are going to stare at me because I'm wearing fashion.
Yeah.
And it is actually beautifully made. And I love that sheepskin coat in the middle, because it looks sort of masculine, and it does look as if it's got a hint of fashion, but it's not OTT.
I've heard him talk about this anti-dandy before, like this, but the polka dot is quite dandyish. You know what I mean? We know we were talking about. We don't like that word, but yeah. I mean, I prefer his spring summer because he plays more with colour, he opened up the silhouette for spring summer, both for his own line and for Dior. All that kind of puffiness I quite like. They talked about Claes Oldenburg, the artist, and all these kind of cakes and stuff. And it's as a girl, I'm more engaged with it. And then obviously for winter, you have to return back to tailoring your coats much more.
Spring Summer was actually probably my favourite of his collections.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was a good collection, you know, and I like the sort of light sweaters and that geometry was great.
Yeah, and when he did the geometry last autumn winter as well, with the kind of the third eye triangle and all that, kind of playing with all that, and he
There's nothing wrong with this, but what's wrong with this to me is that it doesn't look like Dior. So it's, you know, it's very sellable, it's very commercial, it's as Hilary
that's what
said,
you could forget
50 years old men can feel fashionable without feeling threatened.
Yeah.
I don't dislike any of this, but
it has to have an identity.
if it didn't have a title, I wouldn't know who did it.
But this is the case for a lot of the shows as well, though, isn't it? It's kind of quite
I
a
don't
lot
know.
of them.
This is like when bands go, oh, I'm inspired by music, and they recreate it. Instead of going, well, Led Zeppelin took the most bassy bass music that they could in the 60s and combined it with, you know, sort of Nordic imagery. What would the modern equivalent be? And it's like he's forgotten that the part of the magic of Hedy wasn't just tuning into subculture, it was also doing something that felt like the most fashion thing possible. And a lot of these clothes, they're just the same menswear that I've just seen for 2 weeks now, going down. I get why you do all these menswear staples, but it's like everybody's doing expensive menswear staples.
Yeah, but honestly, this is even more than what we've seen for the past 2 weeks. More that same old, same old. I think this is the safest we've seen, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, can you see One Direction wearing any of this?
Well, yeah.
An oversized coat on the left.
I
is
could
quite
actually
fun.
see them wearing the sort of green parka that went by earlier. I mean, but I mean, you know, I don't know if Harry Styles. It's maybe a bit quiet for Harry Styles.
You can't see his tattoos in there. I really like those big coats, though. This is where there's more. It feels, and at the beginning, I didn't really like the jean, but I quite like this. It feels very British.
Yeah, it's very British, isn't it? Again,
it really does.
With the turned-up jean with that laser cut, oversized, quite effeminate shapes.
And the pinstripe and using the end of the fabric, you know, with the continuous stripe.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing, probably my favorite idea in all of this.
Yeah.
That special pinstripe.
Right,
Because it's a modern take of it. It's you know, and it's recognizable.
Yeah.
So the people that want it to be recognized, that's an easy way to do it. It's quite smart.
Yeah, it's great.
I know for the beginning, well, we heard that it's inspired by Monsieur Dior himself.
Is that like a flower embroidery?
Yeah.
It's a big rose or something.
Yeah.
And
The flower, and I knew the flowers. Obviously, we saw at the beginning, and I think everyone in the seat got a flower. But for me, I think the flower application on the actual collection is quite literal. It's not. It's just, there's a flower print. There's a.
Well, that's what he did with like I said, the third eye triangle. Kept repeating it.
Yeah.
And that coming back to repetition that we were talking about earlier on. I have heard Tim talk about it's all about this repetition. So when he does find a motif, he does tend to run with it.
A lot.
Unless we can see
doing the same here. Yeah.
And in terms of that, us thinking about men not necessarily wanting to engage intellectually with what they're buying, they just want a great suit. That's totally fine. But I feel like at some point, someone should be engaging intellectually with what they're doing.
Well,
especially if you're saying, this is the research, this is where it's coming from. I think just slapping the flower on everything.
Yeah, I mean, look, it really looks as if it has just been plonked, on the hem of the coat.
The brand doesn't, Dior brand doesn't hold any cachet with the men's market. So for him to not want to push the brand is weird. Dior is a massive brand for women, but it's not. That's not enough for the men, because I don't think men will just think it's their wife's makeup. They don't, I don't think they know anything about the new look and about even John Galliano, other than, and I think that to not have any branding is weird. But then, they keep building multi-million-dollar stores, so obviously it's a success, and I'm wrong.
I mean, I'm trying to remember when you're in, a department store or in a concession or in the store, who is flicking through the rails, and I can't really place who that.
It feels like he's done the concept, at the end. Kind of, I quite like the pinstripe as well, because it feels like it's chalked.
Yeah.
It has got that Japanese quality of like revealing the process of how this could have been put together, and the rose has got. It looks like it's been chalked on as well, but it does feel like he's just sort of. Crowbarred some kind of motif at the end to make it feel like actually we might forget that 3/4 of the collection was quite great and classic, but I think that it has got a market that is different to, like you said, it's just very the guy that maybe feels like, hey, I'm wearing Dior.
But hang on a second, this is easier to sell than J.W. Anderson, no matter what we say. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not attacking you, I'm just saying.
No, that's what I'm saying, actually. They feel like they have to bring this in to sort of make us feel like they're engaging with the industry.
It's so easy to sell, anybody can wear this.
Oh, absolutely, that's what I'm saying. It is 80% really commercial.
Absolutely.
And then 20% at the end, they're like, oh, something for the stylists and the editorial teams.
Absolutely. And I don't think that commercial is a bad word. I mean, when you, as we always say here, I repeat myself, at the end of the day you have to sell, okay? So, but also we want designers to invent something new and to change the way we dress. I think it's very difficult to be another Hedi Slimane, because you can't be, especially in what he did for menswear.
It's like being another Lee McQueen.
Yeah, it won't happen.
Only one comes along
every X years. And I also
Sarah
think
hasn't bored us to death, though. Sarah's pushed
can I just
forward and
say
done good
something
things.
to pick up on the opening multi-billion stores? It doesn't mean they're selling a lot. Dior is the flower of Mr. Arnault, and he will always expand Dior. He will always make him look amazing. I remember when I was in Vuitton 10 years ago, we were saying we are supporting Dior. This will get me in trouble. Because, no matter what was happening behind the scene at Dior has to be there, advertise a lot, open stores, etc. So I'm not saying, I think this is easy to say, but the opening of the store doesn't mean anything. We don't know the figures.
But does Bernard Arnault wear Dior suits all the time? Or ever?
I don't know. I haven't seen him in 10 years and he doesn't really want to see me, but I don't know.
It'd be interesting to know if he wore Dior.
They have other brands as well, I don't think he wears Givenchy. Do you think he wears Givenchy? No.
Maybe not.
Dior is what he loves.
I wonder if he's going to wear J.W. Anderson for Loewe.
That would be funny.
I don't know. But
what's going on with these more exciting suits? I mean, these coats are just a bit more interesting too. Number 27.
But like Dal said, it's very, very British.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It kind of feels, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bell stuff.
Bell stuff as well.
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
Well, hunting, fishing, that sort of outdoorsy.
It's very British traditional bell stuff.
Yeah. It's
cut here as a blazer, but
I mean, the fisherman's vest.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because how do you obviously brand is it just the runway is the wrong format in order to sell? I mean, what is Dior's USP?
Oh,
French.
there are-
Yeah.
Dior, the name.
The name.
Dior.
Dior.
Homme.
So
as you
how
would
do
say.
we sell? How do we sell that? You know, because why wouldn't you go into X brand? Why wouldn't you go to, you know, some of these pieces can be bought at Hermes. Some of them can be bought at.
Top man.
Yeah, but these guys are so rich, they're never going to go anywhere near Top Man, are they?
Probably once you wear it, you can see
well,
the
it
difference. I hope.
is very top man in the fact that you can imagine them reproducing.
Yes.
it.
Let's put it like this: you wouldn't rush to Dior after this show, saying, "Oh, I need to have that," because you can find it apart from the special pinstripe. You can find it anywhere. However, if you're a Dior client, this season you go to the store and you buy a lot because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when we were looking at Xenia the other day, and actually, you know, we're very different to the market, and we're sitting here as fashion people, and I feel like Dior maybe is in that, you know, same position. They're just hopefully selling well. We don't know. I don't know what their figures are, but it seems to be that it sells. But actually,
Well, Xenia figures are pretty high.
oh,
so-
Xenia, no, definitely, Xenia is. But I'm saying it's kind of that. It's on the runway, but actually they're just classic kind of. well, it
I'm
hasn't
just
got-
wondering if the
it's
runway is
not
the wrong
risky.
place to market
Yeah.
this.
Most of shows are not produced. Men and
Yeah.
women and kid, whatever. Most of shows, 60% of it never hits the stores. So what
Very
you're
good
saying
friend
is
of
That's what I
very,
mean. Like, I can
very true. You know.
I can imagine all these commercial pieces are all going to come off from this collection, and you could easily, like you said, like we were saying, that the concept probably won't even make it to
Yeah.
the majority of the stores.
No, but I think it's a failure of marketing. What I'm more interested in, like, how on earth.
You feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Well, not a missed opportunity. I'm just wondering how do they talk to these men then? Because I'm missing it. I'm missing this conversation. I'm not the customer, and I'm wondering if I'm.
The equity is the brand. The name Dior is
Yeah.
huge.
And
Huge, not in size, in equity, brand equity. It's big, and I think that most of the brands live for that. But then you have the innovator like Lee McQueen, what Nicholas did at Balenciaga, what Hedi did at Dior Homme. You know, the Azedine. I mean, I'm not here. I don't want to give a lesson about this, but when you're Dior, you have such a brand equity that it doesn't matter if this is a missed opportunity.
It should matter, though. I think
It should, but it actually I don't
because
think
actually,
it does.
you know, Dior, they're doing so well. They're doing so much with their women's wear. This is a missed opportunity, and maybe they've got their eye on women's wear at the moment, and this will be the next sort of. But to find, like you said, another Lee McQueen, why Sarah did so well is that she did kind of she's respected, you know, his DNA, and she's worked alongside him for many years. They would have been wrong to have bought somebody else in, you know.
I agree.
And they would have been wrong to have bought in another Eddie Clement or another superstar equivalent, because they wouldn't have found one quick enough. So, you know, and it would have been a bit jarring to have had superstar to superstar. It's kind of needs a bit of a moment, and I don't think it's necessarily a transition, but I do think it's a strategy.
But I think now also there's
It
a
is a
balance.
strategy
There's a
for
balance
sure.
between Dior women's wear and Dior menswear now, which might make a big difference in store. You know, the man shopping with the woman in Dior, whether he's her gay best friend, boyfriend, husband, brother, it's probably there's now parity on a taste level. Whereas we're not going from, you know, Galliana's brilliant theatrics and you know storytelling to these quite safe clothes. They're now actually, I think Dior now more than ever, as in both of these brands kind of sit in a similar wardrobe in a
Do you
similar
think they
environment.
feel cohesive now?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm less confused by the clothes than I am by the marketing. Because the clothes, you know, like we all agree, they're actually many wearable pieces.
Yeah.
There's jackets that I would love to have. If I was looking for a good suit, I don't see why I wouldn't want one of these
Yeah.
suits. You know, it's obviously highly saleable. It will be beautifully made, but it's the marketing that I'm just that I'm confused about.
The marketing comes after the collection. In a fashion brand, the marketing doesn't talk to the designer, especially not before. You know, it's not. This is not Procter and Gamble. I mean, which I'm not saying right or wrong, but the marketing of this will come after the marketing department has seen this.
But if the
has
show's
seen
not
this.
about, if a show isn't about marketing, what's it about?
Yeah, but the show's only really going out to, you know, press and buyers and fashionistas who are
From
fixated.
style.com, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of man who is going to end up buying these suits, I suspect knows absolutely nothing about a catwalk
Doesn't
show.
even know that it's
Probably
Fashion
doesn't
Week
even
now.
know it's menswear week.
Right.
You know,
They will see it in 6 months.
what he's doing is he's walking along into the Dior shop in Avenue Montaigne and he's thinking, yes, I need a new suit,
Yeah.
or I must get a couple of
Yeah,
new
but
shirts.
Burberry makes sure they're on the front page of the newspapers.
And the live
it's the same
streaming kind
customer.
of huge. They're turning fashion into entertainment. I mean,
Yeah.
Burberry are really wanting to kind of have this mass message.
Yeah, the CEO
And-
of Burberry said that
and-
we're no longer in fashion, we're in entertainment.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah, but
surfing
still,
off.
the non-fashionista will see that, oh, that's interesting, look what they do.
Yeah.
Oh, who's wearing that? But then, when they need to buy a suit, they
Yeah.
don't think, oh my God, this is so last season, or
Yes.
oh, that's very, you know,
Absolutely,
innovative.
that's what I was
No.
saying about the Xenia
They
customer.
influence, because even the least fashionista woman or man, and I tell that to every one of my friends and say, oh my God, you people in fashion, everybody's influenced in the way they cut their hair, in the way,
course.
I mean, they all, I mean, we, of course, but they all. However, what they see on the front cover of the magazine or of the newspaper is just something about news or
slice of it,
entertainment
yeah.
or whatever. They don't think Fashion Week, what
No.
they did, inspirations.
But they
you
remember
would've-
where to go.
But you would have thought that they would have wanted to have used the show, like Burberry have, to get all that social media buzz and build a brand. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Dior don't feel they need to do that,
Yeah.
but every brand kind of,
Oh, they
every
do.
other brand seems to want
But
to do that.
I think that's your point, isn't it? Is that as a brand, Dior Homme doesn't really massively push itself in people's faces. You know, if you go onto their website, there's a beautiful film by Willy van der Peer of the current collection. And yeah, if you want to spend 1 minute 50 watching it, then great. But it's not really, you're not really forced to engage with it as a brand. I think that's the thing, is that we're probably so
It's quiet.
used and conditioned to
Yeah.
being force-fed brands, like the ones you've mentioned, but maybe there are several other ones too. And Dior isn't one of them. And so that's probably what's quite
Or this
And
could
that's
be
it.
his last collection.
And that's
Who
its
knows?
USP.
This could be his last collection.
What's it, sorry?
Well, that it doesn't kind of join the throng.
Right.
It doesn't engage in
Yeah.
fabulous marketing
Yeah.
and incredible campaigns and star models and celebrities. Its USP is that it is quite quiet and discreet. It's got its customers.
Which I like, actually.
Yeah,
And
I
it's-
don't mind it.
No.
It
just a
sets
waste of
itself
time to
apart
watch it.
from the other menswear brands by that very fact.
I don't disagree and I don't dislike this, and I think it's a very beautiful show. I just think it's a little bit of a waste of time to. A show means spectacle. This is not.
Could be done just by appointment, and then it'll roll out as a commercial line. Or
It's lovely. I love the hair. They a little bit like mine, so I think
You know,
they look cute.
you know,
I like the hairstyle, but apart from that,
Acne does boring, right? Acne does boring in the most beautiful, wonderful way. Everybody wants it. It's mega, mega desirable. Essentially, it's the most beautifully made with just enough design basics. But everybody wants acne.
it's because it's not boring at all.
exactly, it's not boring. I don't
I
think.
disagree. It's not boring at all. It's very interesting. Do you think it's boring?
I don't know, maybe that was my glass of champagne. Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, they're coming out with basics and all that kind of stuff, but they've got much more of an engagement with art, with colour, with you know, it's much.
Well, they
But
tell you about
my blood was changing itself as I just say acne. It's exciting. It's a brand. It's exciting
Because it's
and
not
interesting.
boring. They
But
don't
the
do
clothes
boring.
are sometimes quite basic.
I don't know. I wear a lot of acne. I don't think it's boring.
But this doesn't do anything to my blood.
Maybe to a banker's flat.
Yeah. Corporate,
Yes.
boardroom.
Like you said, the
I mean,
accountant.
as
Yeah,
you
the
said, there are
accountant,
many
you know.
people that go to the office and have to wear this still.
Yes.
saying
This
you're
is
wearing Dior
nice.
Homme is just, and you're wearing an amazing suit.
Yeah.
That's the customer.
That's cool.
And
In a
what is it
boardroom.
that people say about sort of business and of the suits? There they are.
Yes. I mean, I am just playing devil's advocate.
Celebrity question. Celebrity.
So I have a question from my old boss, Katie Grand.
Yay.
Very, very, very old boss, 5 million years ago. Anyway.
She wouldn't be happy to hear that, but...
No, she's not
Sorry,
old.
Katie.
It was a long time ago is what I meant.
Exactly.
Anyway, the lovely Katie Grand has sent in a question for us. And it says, would Chris choose Miley or Britney and why? So what do we think?
To listen to or to
Yeah, I don't
hang
understand the
out
question.
with.
So having a campaign.
I guess it's for our interpretation,
Yeah.
so you take it whichever way you like.
I don't think he'd choose either.
No.
But
He looks a
really-
bit like a Celine Dion man to me.
I'm going to say Britney. I don't know. I despise Miley Cyrus. So
Did you read Vanessa's article this morning in the...
No, I
FT?
missed it.
She's so smart, Vanessa. About
she
Miley.
is very
Read it.
smart.
I'm
Okay,
not going
brilliant.
to
What
spoil
did she
it.
say?
Oh, it was amazing. It was about the fact that she's in the Marc Jacobs campaign, and Jurgen refused to
And
shoot
refused to
it.
shoot
Yeah.
her. Go.
So
go,
David Sims did,
Jürgen.
and she looks very poised. And I mean, this is not about that. Really.
Whatever. I mean, it's like
Anyway, it's a
postmodern take on a
great
trashy
article.
celeb. She is awful.
Anyway, I don't understand the question. I'm not smart enough
We know
for
your
Katie.
position on that one.
No, they
Would
won't
it
be.
choose them as what?
Well, for instance,
Testimonial?
I don't think he would choose Britney because he's far too the zips do not equate with me with mental breakdowns. You know, there's too much. It's too tense. I liked Britney's mental breakdown. I loved it. I loved the hair. I liked the whole thing. I'm very pro mental diversity, but I don't think Chris Van Ash is. Seriously, like
I think he'd probably find Miley a little bit overexposed.
Oh, and in line with what we were saying
Being
about
a
the
quiet,
quietness.
Yes.
relatively quiet. I think he'd probably think she's a bit tacky, and I probably has.
But the brand strategy there is pretty smart. We can we can approve or disapprove, but the brand strategy
Oh, of
around
course.
Miley.
But I think, but obviously, we were talking
Look
about
at us, we're here
this
talking
the
about-
marketing of this brand, which is he's in charge
Yeah.
of to some degree, and he's going down a quieter route.
Well, Marc
So
Jacobs
maybe
did
he'd-
do Victoria Beckham before she was a fashion
Yeah.
powerhouse.
And he made her into a fashion powerhouse in a way. He justified.
Yeah, and
her
Jürgen put a bag on her
raise.
head.
Yeah.
Put her in a bag.
Hence,
I wrote
Legs
that.
up.
Yeah.
I wrote that in Vice and got in a lot of trouble from Jürgen's agent.
really?
She was like, "She's a good woman. She's a hard-working woman," and I was like, "But the bag was on her head, right?" She was like, "That's not the point." And
What
I
is
was
the
like,
point?
"But the bag was still on her head."
You did it.
And I was like, "She put the bag on her head. I think she knew what she was doing." And she was like, "She's just trying. She's just trying to work. She's got kids." But
My heart bleeds.
I think if it was Miley or Britney, I think Chris would go with Miley.
But to do what?
Yeah.
Or only
I
because she's
change it.
massive.
To put her on a catwalk in an advertising campaign, go out with as a I mean, it's different to
wear
be
one of his suits?
wearing menswear.
Wear one of his suits.
Can someone
you can
explain to
interpret
me
the question
what I'm
however
not
you
getting?
like.
Well, she could wear the jacket with the flesh-coloured knickers, couldn't she?
Yeah.
That'd be a look.
The denim looked quite cool.
Yeah.
I think they are too overexposed, as you were saying,
Yes.
for someone as discreet and understated as this. So
I think the crux
even if
of,
I haven't understood, I would say no, he wouldn't.
I think the crux of the matter is, could you twerk in a Dior men's suit?
That's going on social.
Could you
No,
twerk
is this
with
a
a
new
man
line
dressed
thing?
in Dior? Could you
Can we
twerk
get
with a
Hilary
man dressed in Dior?
twerking in Dior Homme?
With that hair, yes, I like the ginger hair. There.
Do Dior men twerk? That's the question. Well, they don't have booties, so they'd have nothing to twerk.
Oh, they
Yeah.
need that big coat.
Yeah.
Or do we mean twerk?
Where is this going? Sorry, listeners.
So-
But generally, I think what we mean is the brand is quite uptight. There's an uptightness to
This is very
this.
uptight.
And so
Why?
That bell staff, kind of like you said, it's stayed. It's kind of
tight.
Yeah, it's uptight.
Why is uptightness aspirational? Bringing it right back.
Is it?
Right back. Why are the people who buy it, and I think a lot of young people actually buy into Dior Homme still. Why
Because
is it
they still think it's
aspirational?
heady, probably. They haven't noticed it's not heady slimmer.
They had a nap.
How though? That's surely not possible.
No, I'm
But
kidding.
this uptightness is aspirational. You know, his
Well, it's the
precision.
control. It's like almost kind of American Psycho, Patrick Bateman kind of sort of thing of that. You know, the styling. You know, within menswear is so much more controlled and slick and high end. But yeah, that's a little bit.
Is it
the
some?
brand.
It's an impossible.
It's
Brand.
just the brand.
But it's an impossible construct. No one looks that uptight and immaculate. So maybe that's the aspiration.
But there's a song that tells us everything is all right, uptight, out of sight.
So maybe he needs to loosen up. You know.
I think we will get fired after this. I can see him smiling, so I feel reassured.
Has Chris Van Ash ever done? I'm really close to saying the wrong thing. Does Chris Van Ash ever have? Has he ever done one of those clutches? I really hate men's clutches, and I feel
Yeah,
that
there was one last season, wasn't there, Dior? I'm sure there was one.
I don't know.
I feel this is very much for that man that likes a men's clutch.
No, it's more elegant.
Oh,
I think
no,
it's
more
quite
elegant.
chic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with this chic-wise.
Okay. No, I don't see anything wrong with it chic-wise.
So clutch for me is not very chic.
But it's
that's
so
why.
interesting. You
Right.
could take the head-to-toe polka dot look. You could take, you know, the pinstripe and the rose. And that's what I've noticed when I've looked at a lot of the collections this season. They're like 90% boring, 10% great, or there's something that I could actually hook onto conceptually. But it just seems to be that that's the slice. So when someone says to me, what's your favourite menswear collection? I'm like, well, kind of one look from various.
That's quite true.
Look,
I would
look
say
24 from most
a
of
few
them.
looks from various, and I hate the rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, you could be actually radical with this. You could take the pinstripe trousers and put them with the polka dot jacket.
But that's what I mean.
That's
It's almost
nice.
like propaganda.
And then add the rose print top. Polka dot
That's nice.
shoes. Maybe that might look a bit more radical, but I don't know how many people would wear it or buy it.
But that will be kind of like maybe if that appears in ID, they would be able to absolutely re-skew the collection. This is what I mean. These collections have a little bit of something in them which enables people to sort of, it's like propaganda almost. It's like, oh, that's what happened at that show. Oh, that
Well,
really
you know,
wasn't
there's
what
two
happened. But
There's two tendencies, because Dal very correctly, and I didn't, you know, it was very good. He sort of told me off the other day and sort of said, you know, just, I mean, I wasn't even the one talking about money, but sort of said, you know, these people don't mind, it's nothing to do with money, they've got plenty of money, and that it's not about its commercialness, right? So there's that point of view about this high fashion, that basically I just have no ability to understand the customer. But then there's the other point of view, which is Dior Homme, like most fashion lines, probably essentially exists in order to sell makeup and perfume or bags, and then you know, it's just bizarre. So I don't know where I don't know.
But if you, you know, and if you go to a wedding, for example, and the people who are getting married are quite interested in, if it's a man and a woman or even two men, and they're interested in fashion, where do they buy their suit from to get married in? Because I'm thinking about that while
They
we're
have it
sitting here,
made.
and actually I always think,
Tailor-made.
I would think that
Tailor-made.
some of them might go to Dior Homme to get one. Actually, I don't know why. I'm trying to think of unless they're getting it tailor-made and they've, you know, out of
Or
all of
to
those.
one of the Italian formal brands, which is half, you know,
Yeah.
made to measure, not really tailor-made.
But they're interested they're interested in fashion, maybe not craft and real. I mean, of course,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're going to do it, you're going to go to the ultimate best. But fashion people, or people who think that they're fashion people that are getting married, I can
you're
imagine
right.
lots of men kind of thinking, oh, you know, I don't want to go to Hugo Boss, for example. I'm going to go here.
But you know, you don't see it on the catwalk, but Gucci has classic and formal suit. They
Yeah.
just don't put them on the
Yeah,
catwalk.
yeah.
Saint Laurent now, I don't know, but it used to have a lot, and that's what they were selling. Prada does, I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah.
there is more choice than we think
Yeah.
when we see Fashion Week, except that that's surprising. This is put there like that, and it's not even styled in a weird way, like Hilary was saying, with the polka dot jacket, and that's where I'm asking why, you know. Maybe it's the return of the real man of the city, I don't know. But, you know, they all have it. They just don't show it.
Yeah, they don't present it, but here it's presented.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the whole show, it's that.
Well, I think you're right, the one we were saying about like when Eddie was there. For me, I still think of not Eddie being there, but it's still got his legacy. So like Dior almost feels like a bit more of a rock and roll kind of, I don't know, it just feels like it's got an association with music still. Yeah. I still feel like that his legacy lives and on, and men probably subliminally still associate it with that, maybe.
Yeah.
I wonder what the music was for the show.
We had, was it last show or the season before we had Pet Shop Boys?
Last season. I think it does help to watch it live with a live stream so you can hear the music and...
Maybe it was
So
Wrecking
much you can do
Ball.
with this.
Well, what's really interesting is
Maybe it was Wrecking Ball.
we've not asked to see any close-ups on these looks. I think that might be, you know, kind of it's quite telling. You know, maybe we're almost getting enough information. They're like Xeroxed or photocopied sort of men's looks. But there's no, you know, there was a moment, of course, with the little, is that applique, is it? You know, but the desire to actually find out isn't really that great, definitely from my perspective. Now, I'm not dying to feel these clothes. I'm not dying to see close-ups of them. I'm not dying to try one of them on. And that might be reflective in the fact that I'm not the customer, but in terms of as a you know, all of us as commentators on fashion, culture, and art, and all of those things.
Well, what he did carry on from Hedy was the exquisite rightness. Like anybody, like for instance, and sorry for my references to be so down at heel, but Dior Homme's jeans. You asked anybody who knew about denim, you know, the kind of mega anal I know about denim person would be like, Dior Homme make the best jeans, you know.
I still have a pair, and I'm a woman.
And
my favorite pair of jeans.
And Chris has carried on that mega rightness of material, of fit, and that's the one part of the legacy that he's definitely maintained, I think.
Well, that's perhaps all they need.
Yeah.
Fair enough, yeah.
You know, if it works, you know, what do they say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And they've got so much going on with rap and with women's wear.
Yeah.
In terms of balance, maybe it feels right. I mean, he's got like, you know, psychedelic Alice in Wonderland style garden sets and all kinds of things going on, and you know, Raf, and I, you know, adore his concepts and designs. So maybe it feels right just to kind of have this doing it.
Well, and they do have they definitely have their roster of labels that, you know, there's certain labels they're pushing, and then I think they let some go under, and then they push them again, and. But I'm glad you looked at your watch.
Yes.
Because I was definitely going to say it's closing. Let's get closing comments. So, Dal, perhaps if you'd like to lead us into the closing comments.
I don't want to do closing comments here.
No?
Should we start that side then? It's consistent, and I think you know, there's no surprises here, but maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I think it's clean and crisp, and I can actually see Robbie Williams in one of those suits.
If he's in a
suity mood.
Yeah.
Well, he is now that he does.
Yeah.
You
Swing.
know,
Or Gary Barlow.
Gary Barlow. Yeah.
Definitely Gary.
I think Gary would be a bit more likely to fit.
Yes.
Lucy.
Like we've all said, a very commercial collection, and we've given lots of rationale for why that might not necessarily be a bad thing for Dior Homme. And I would be interested to look at some of the close-ups of what he did with, you know, the shoes and the socks and the matching prints, and also that pinstripe, whether that was, how that was done. Has it got like a chalk kind of sort of graininess to it? Because it feels like he's taken a few sort of, there's almost a bit of a Japanese Watanabe kind of calm, the polka dots, the kind of the army references with the suits. I mean, I know we're saying fishing and all this kind of stuff, but with the chalking, revealing the process of it, it's kind of like little bits there. So for me, I would go probably back and have a look at that. But yeah, like we've said, a collection that feels sort of 80% very commercial, 10 or 20% a bit more interesting. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be, a success in some way or another.
So Mimma, you said you didn't want to do closing, so what would you like to say? You can say whatever you like about anything.
No, it's lovely, it's safe, it's sellable, and thank God for the chalk pinstripe, because there's nothing wrong with this except that it's a fashion show.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. I've enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Daryoush, we just want to say a big thank you to you for being our chair.
Well done.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So sweet.
And then some chocolates, because we know how you like
Oh
Nice.
my god. Oh no.
Thank you, Daryoush.
Oh, thank you.
That was an amazing one.
Are we still on?
Are we?
chocolate. Cheers.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you. Can people talk? Because I'll get really embarrassed.
Now we're looking at you.
We're watching you unwrap.
We're judging how you open
No,
presents.
you've been great.
Ooh.
We think it might be a Dior shirt,
I'm helping you.
specially designed by Chris Rod Ashford.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're very jealous. Can we host next season?
Oh, really?
Now, what is it?
Is it going to be non
Ooh.
or something?
Oh, I think I know the name of the little
wow.
that told you I like
Very
this.
smart.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
yeah.
you're wearing it.
Fantastic.
I think it was Mr. Aaron Frew might have told you that I was checking this out. Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. Oh, thank you.
Well done.
Oh. Thank you.